put the phone down or not listen, okay? Because I really can't do both well, all right? So we already know we have some important listening barriers, and that's why listening is so hard. All right, I want to talk about some listening characteristics, and these are characteristics of a poor listener, okay? I really need to put that up there, because when I say listening characteristics, these are characteristics of a poor listener. I'm sorry, my nose is just like running. I blame the dirt from Saturday. Okay, so notice that they're all C's. Again, I wanted to make it something that you could kind of remember. The first one is you consistently tune out dull information, okay? If that is a habit of yours, it's easy to get into. But unfortunately for me, dull information is like the information I need. You know, it's like the most important information in my day is what's dull. And so when you tune it out, you're missing out on the important things, okay? So if that's something that has become a habit for you, you know, really think about how can I focus back in. You give counterfeit attention. Okay, that's what I do to my husband, right? Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, I know. I do it to my 4-year-old sometimes too, because like on the way, I take my kids to school at Smire, but then he goes to school at the Level N Christian School, so he comes back with me, right, and he talks to me the whole way. But like, he's 4, and so like, he talks a lot about stories and dreams and things that I don't really understand what's going on, because he's always 6 in his thing. He's like, so I was 6, and I'm like, okay. So I know it's like not going to be real, and so sometimes I tune him out, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm thinking about my day, right? That's not really a good listening characteristic. You shouldn't do that very often. You criticize delivery or physical appearance. Now, when I say criticize, it may not even be like criticize like what you're thinking, like, oh, you look bad, but it could just be like you're distracted by someone's physical appearance, right? So like, you know, anytime I have a waitress that has like a ton of piercings, you know, everywhere, I get distracted because it's like shiny, and I'm like, I wonder how much that hurt, you know, like that, this one here, like, oh, it just looks like it would hurt so bad. And I get distracted and I start thinking about stuff like that, and it keeps me from listening to what she's saying, or he. Conclusion jumping, okay? You jump to a conclusion about what someone's going to say before they've even said it. And that's not a good listener, right? They cut you off. If you've ever had a friend that constantly interrupts you, oh my gosh, they are so hard to talk to. And that means they're not really listening, okay? They cue you to hurry. We know the cues to hurry, right? A lot of looking at our watches, a lot of kind of angling away as we're kind of stepping this way, like, hey, yeah, we're wrapping it up here, okay? That means they may not be listening that well if they're trying to get you to hurry. Crappy nonverbal. I know crappy's not a very academic word, but I needed a C word there, okay? So if they have bad nonverbal that shows like, I'm just not really listening to you. And I like to pick on my students here because I think my students a lot of times don't really think about the nonverbal feedback that they give me in class. And the nonverbal feedback you're giving everyone in class, right? So for my students that sit at the back wall, when they're like this, their head's like leaning against the back wall, that sometimes tells me they're not really listening, right? Or like this one. Or like this one. This is my favorite, where they're holding their eyes open. Sometimes your nonverbal says, like, I don't really care, right? And I get it. Like, you're in class, you're a student. I don't take your feedback as, like, God's word, you know, like, you are what you're doing. And I don't think that that means that you necessarily hate me or my class. But it is important to be aware of your feedback, okay? Especially now in online conference calls. So I was in this professional development this summer, and I didn't realize, my camera was on, but Collaborate's a little bit different than like Zoom, so I kind of didn't realize like I was on the screen, because you can only see 4 people at a time. But apparently I was on the screen, and I was like, I just had kind of a blank face. I had RBF, don't know what RBF is, right? Resting bitch face. Okay, so I was just like, I was thinking about other things. I had some internal noise going on. I wasn't really paying attention to the PD because it was really long. PD's professional development, by the way. And I was like, and then this guy like instant messaged me, a professor here, I do not know him, but he like privately instant messaged me, and he's like, you look super bored. And I'm like, oh, sorry, right? So I had to do some counterfeit attention, right? Nod in my head. Yep, I'm with you. So we do need to be aware of our nonverbal when it comes to our feedback. And then finally, counseling when unnecessary. This is my worst habit, I think, as a listener. When you tell me something, I'm like, oh, let me fix it. I can fix that. Oh, here's what you should do. Oh, let me tell you what I would have said in that situation, right? And here's the thing. very witty when it's someone else's problem and it's after the fact. But if it's me, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't say anything funny or smart, right? I'm just like, ugh. It annoys me because I think of the best things to say to other people's problems when I'm not in the situation, right? But if it's me, I'm like, nothing smart or funny or witty.
Fix everybody else's problems, you can't fix your own.
That's right. I'm really good at running other people's lives. Mine, it's fine, okay? But other people's I'm great at. But sometimes that makes me not a good listener because I think, oh, this is what I would have done. Which we all know I wouldn't have done that, right? Like, I'm not that smart. So I'm not really being a good listener. I'm just thinking through how I would have played it out. But that's not listening to boost morale or to give information, right? So if one of the things I'm doing is not listening for those 4 reasons that we listen, then I'm not really being a good listener, okay? And here's the thing. Listening is difficult and it takes a lot of work, okay? So to be a better speaker, one thing we can try to do is always face the speaker and have good eye contact. When we have eye contact, it forces us to zone back in and look at what, really think about what the speaker's saying. Be attentive, and that takes mental awareness, like, oh, I'm going away, I gotta come back. Reserving judgment, asking clarifying questions. So if you get lost in the conversation, ask a question. What I hear you saying is this, what I think I hear you saying is this, right? That's something we're taught a lot in interpersonal communication. Okay, what I hear you saying is this. And then you can repeat it back to them. And then we talk a lot about that in conflict management. So my husband and I, he's a communication minor. He would say, what I hear you saying is that, don't pull that communication crap with me, right? Like, I know. So we do that to each other to kind of drive us crazy. And then finally give feedback, right? Even if it's nonverbal, nodding, showing like, yes, I'm here for you. Okay, now feedback for men and feedback for women is different. Let me just say that right now, okay? Gender communication is a real thing, and so when I say men and women in communication, I really mean masculine and feminine, because you can have a lot of feminine traits as a man, you can have a lot of masculine traits as a woman. Masculine communicators need no feedback. Feminine communicators like feedback, right? So if you've ever seen 2 women on the phone, one will be the one talking, and the other one will be saying like, yes, oh my gosh, I know, right? Okay, do y'all have Disney Plus, okay?
Yes.
You've seen The Mandalorian, right?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, all right. That's okay. Okay. Have y'all ever watched Forky Ask a Question? The little shorts about Forky from Toy Story? Okay, well, you need to, because there's one called What is a Friend? And Forky asks, what is a friend? And he's got this little mug, okay, he's got a smiley face on it. He's like, this is my best friend. His name is what? No. He's like, I know his name is what? No. Because Bonnie's mom holds him and then talks on the phone and always says, what? No. Right? It makes me laugh really hard. That one makes me laugh so hard. But that is how feminine communicators communicate, right? One's talking, but the other one's like, yeah, oh my God, no, you did not. There's also a Facebook video that's really funny, and it's like this young guy, but he puts these wigs on. He's like, how Southern women gossip. And it's just like, so you're saying, yep, but that means, It's really funny. Okay, but that's how feminine communicators give feedback, right? Masculine communicators, like one talks and then the other one talks and then the other one talks. So like I'll be on the phone with my husband. He'll be telling me a story about, yeah, whoa, well, oh my gosh. Then he tells me, or then I tell him a story, and he does the same thing. I'm like, hey, are you there? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no, you weren't talking. He's like, yeah, you were talking. I'm like, I know, but like, I need you to say something so I know you're listening, right? Because that's the feedback that I need. So masculine and feminine feedback, it's a little bit different, but give feedback where it's appropriate, okay? Okay, we're not going to watch this video, but this guy's name is Julian Treasure. He's written tons of work on how to become a better listener and how he believes we're losing our listening. And one of the main things he brings up is that we don't have to listen because everything is recorded now. We can go back and we can watch it again, like this lecture, right? And so it gives us this false sense of like, I don't need to listen now because I can always go back and hear it later. But be honest, if you were here in lecture today, are you going to go back and watch lecture?
No.
It's an hour and 50 minutes, too long. We need to do that, right? So he has some really good things that he says, and at the end he gives 4 tips to help you become a better listener. One of them is to just sit in silence, and I love, love, love that tip, and since I watched this video, I actually try to do it at the end of the day. So when I'm going to pick up my kids, I try to spend 5 to 10 minutes, and sometimes I spend the whole way from here to Smire, just in silence. I don't listen to the radio, I don't listen to a podcast, I don't listen to a book, I just kind of sit in silence, and I let my brain kind of dump out, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know when you've had a long day of listening and like talking, and you should like let your brain like rest. So that when my 2 kids get in the car and they're ready to tell me about their day, my brain's reset a little bit and I'm ready to do more listening. Because otherwise, if you're constantly bombarded with sounds all day long, it gets hard to like listen more. You get tired, right? There's only so much listening we can do in a day. So he has some really great tips, and this is only like a 7-minute video if you ever want to watch some of his TED Talks. His name's Julian Treasure, and he's also written a couple books on listening. It's really good information. So, that is chapter 1 and chapter 2. Any questions?